Ah, okay. This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today's going to be a somewhat different type of. I got to check what this message is. It's just an ad. A somewhat different type of broadcast in that I'm going to lead you towards the end. Well, suggest what you pray for and perhaps spiritual warfare targets as well. Predominantly prayer, heavily prayer, okay? And I'm going to develop what to pray for during the broadcast. Yesterday, I just popped my cork. I got so sick of what the government does to the people, what the rabbis do to the people, what the Satan bots do to the people. I just had it, and I just cried out to the Lord to end it, you know. And I got so sick and tired of it, you know. And I'm also going to ask you to pray for something for me as we get into it, okay? So what I'm going to do is briefly cover Israel's wars, which is what people call the intel. And I'm going to show you, you see, I know a lot of stuff that I don't tell you guys because I used to tell you guys, and a lot of you ran away from me because you thought I was crazy. And I'm going to touch on it today, okay? And some of you will receive it and some of you won't, okay? But I'm going to use scripture to do it. Big difference. 99% of what I teach you is coming right out of your own Bible. Okay? It's right in there. There's a few things that I've taught you, like last year, October 10th, 2023, the Lord told me this is recompenses, and I made a mistake and said it's the year of recompenses, and then like almost a year later, I was led to do a word study, and I realized that the word for year of recompenses is not Shana. Shana is the regular word for year. Shanim is the word for years in the plural, a year in the plural. Shanat is a period of time that's not exact and precise, like you shall sacrifice a lamb in the first year. I'm going to say that means the lamb has at least a year under his belt. He's not in the second year until he hits 24 months, right? He's not in the first year because he doesn't have, if he's 3 months old, he doesn't have a year. If he's 1 month old, how does he have a year? You see, if I'm wrong and it's the other way around, the meaning of the word shanat is still going to be evident, okay? It's not exactly precise, but it wouldn't mean 2 years. It would mean less than that. Okay? So let's assume I'm right. And in the first year, the lamb has to be at least 12 months and 1 day old. So you could sacrifice a lamb that's 13 months old, 14 months, 17 months, 19 months. It would still qualify. So it's not a precise, exact 360-day year. That threw me off. Okay? And I pleaded and begged with the Lord where I was going wrong, because as we approached the day he told me, which was August 10th, I started realizing it's not coming to pass. I'm not seeing it. So then he gave me the answer. Okay? And it would be impossible to derive that out of the scriptures. The other thing that I talk about is a time at times and half a time, which is the 1260 days, which is the 42 months. It's symbolic, it's the same thing. And I've developed this many times. It means the captivities, and the church is completely ignorant of this. I don't think they conceal it from you. I think they're not aware of it. Okay? Because you can't derive this out of the scriptures. The first time, I mean, you could, but you'd have to be a heck of a student. Okay, I got it from the Lord's help. He showed it to me. So The first time was the Egypt captivity, second time was the Babylonian captivity, third time was the Rome captivity, 70 AD thing, and that's still ongoing today. And the half a time is found in Zechariah 14, the first 2 or 3 verses, which is the great day of the Lord, which is Gog Magog, which is the great falling away. They got to come in before they fall away. They're not in, okay? The Israelites. And basically, the people that are not Israelite born, except for a very small amount, are not in either, okay? That really love Yeshua and have the Holy Spirit. They're out there. They're in the churches, some of them too, I'm afraid to say. Okay, that's sad, but I think they'll be coming out before it's too late. All right? So, what, that's what it is. And the 42 months is, a time, a year, 2 years, time times, and half a time. So it's a year, 2 years is 3, half a time is half a year. Chief's panting, he just came in from the heat. I got the AC on, he'll cool off in a minute or two. So, those are predominantly the 2 big things I told you without the scriptures, because it would be near impossible. And as I've told you many times, I'm not sitting here and coming off like the word of the Lord came to me in the 23rd year of Netanyahu in the 9th month in the 4th day, and write it down or tell it to you. That would be prophesying per se, okay? And I have made errors in interpretation of prophecy. That's a big difference, okay? That's not the same thing, all right? I'm here to teach the prophecies of Israel and pertaining to the nations if it's closely related to Israel. So I don't spend a tremendous amount of time on North and South Korea and Japan and Taiwan and Ukraine and Russia and NATO. I cover it, I touch on it when I think it's relevant. I don't cover South America problems. I don't get into this. I'm here to teach the prophecies of Israel, that what the nations do to each other that doesn't affect Israel per se or precisely or exactly is not something I'm here to talk about. Now, the daughter of Babylon, America, is very relevant to Israel, so I do dwell heavily on that. Okay? I want to make that clear. All right? So what I'm going to tell you today is heavily scripture-based, and I'm going to build it into current events and show you that we probably have a match. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to have to explain to you what's really going on with Hamas, Iran, and Hezbollah, and Gaza, and to a lesser extent the Houthis. And now we got to talk a little bit about the UAE and Saudi Arabia too. Not a lot, but a little bit. So I'm going to go through that as probably at the beginning, and then we're going to shift into Elijah. All right? We're going to go back, and I'm going to show you how he worked. How he will work is very similar to how he worked in the past. He, was calling fire down on the enemies, and they were getting burned up. In these days, the fire will just come out of his mouth. He won't have to go, Lord, I, ask you to throw fire down on them. He'll just put it out of their mouth. And he can put all the plagues he wants on anybody he wants. So can Apostle John, the other witness. Okay? So that is, we're going to touch on that, and then we're going to analyze very carefully. Could the appearing, and yes, I'm going to show you the word appearing is in the real text, of Elijah, okay, that means his open unveiling, you might say, like John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. He came out of the wilderness, and then he had his unveiling to the people. Okay? The Elijah, one of the 2 witnesses, will do that also. But some of you understand he's been working already for some time, but he has not been appearing openly as Elijah. And I'm not going to touch on that very much at all. I will tell you that Elijah and Apostle John are in Israel, and they have been for a while. And they're just waiting to get launched by Jehovah. Okay? But I'm going to tell you right now that it's just, and I'm going to do this as we go, it's just unbelievably awful here. I understand quite well what the nations are doing, what the government of Israel is doing, what the rabbis are doing, what the Satan bots are doing. And it's become, I'm not kidding, it's painful. It's frustrating and it's painful at the same time. It's horrible living through it and not being able to do anything about it. It's just horrible. Okay? Now, some of you are going to say, why doesn't the Lord heal me all up? Well, I think I need to tell you this stuff. And this is not, there's no direct scripture for it, but you can build it out of the scriptures, I think. What's going on? Well, if all of a sudden, many of you have many ailments, especially those of you that are older, some of you are younger. I'm thinking about shutting the window down. No, Chief will cool. Well, let me close the window down. The Chief will cool off quicker. It's not that hot out, but he's old and that'll help him cool off. All right, so all of a sudden you show up all healed. I'm not talking everlasting life, I'm talking healed. Well, people are going to know something's up, you see. And when there's something is up with the Lord working like that, the Satan bot world is going to turn to violence rather quickly. And the Satan bot world is the leaders of every single country, and it's not yet time for that. Okay? So we're all lonely, detached. People in the church world think we're crazy and nuts and demonic and have demons or whatever, right? Friends and family don't have much use for us, and neighbors and co-workers, employers and all that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's our lot, okay? But by keeping us this way, poor and, we're not healed, it makes the world not care for Jehovah. They rather have Satan, and that way they could get access to wealth and earthly moral power and silly things, right? And that keeps them from turning to him for false reasons. Now I'll explain this to you. The beast is going to be able to do miracles and stuff. They'll have and the false prophet, and they'll have a talking statue. It basically comes to life, stuff like that, right? See, because there's going to be miracles on the righteous side of the fence, let's say, and people will be drawn to the miracles, the signs and wonders. Okay? But they don't love the commandments of the Lord, and they don't love Jehovah, and they may go through the motions of following certain commandments. Ananias and Sapphira went through the motions, and then they lied, and it was about money, the root of all evil. And they got destroyed. So God is doing this so the evil ones don't get sucked in. Hey, you got all healed. Tell me how I can get healed. Not tell me how I can know the Lord, or how can I get healed? And they'll do it to get healed. And then we're going to have a debacle. You see, amongst our ranks now, we don't really have false believers. Now, you have false believers coming into the chat, so what? Any idiot, and I say this again, any idiot can come in and lie in the chat, okay? That's why I tell you, don't give greetings to people in the chat. And I have these idiots write me with all these narrative stories that are phony, over and over and over again, and they think they're getting over on me. Eventually they realize they're not and they go away. All right? So, he's really, it's hard to see, but he's protecting and preserving us. Okay? Now, some of you may not think you're poor. Listen, they're selling cars now for multi-millions of dollars. To get one of the elite cars, you're looking at, $400,000 to $700,000. Okay? These people live in houses that are over $10 million in value. Okay? They sell beds for $25,000 now. And more. The sheets, which they make out of very fine Egyptian cotton, are probably $500-800 a sheet. These people go out to lunch. 2 people without alcohol easily drop $500 on lunch. Okay? Dinner maybe $700-800 without the wine. They'll buy wine for $300, $400, $500 a bottle easily. Okay? Chiefs calm down when I shut the window. Just for a meal. And you buy groceries for 2 weeks, 3 weeks for what one meal. Now, if they go into a real gourmet restaurant, okay, they might spend $8,000-9,000 a person, not a couple, a person. Okay, a person. Expensive restaurant hamburger prices run about $35. Your French fries are probably $12 to $15. A salad's probably $20-30. Dessert, $20. And that's no alcohol. And that's not counting the tip. They usually tip 20-25% in these places. Yeah, waiters in these restaurants can make a very good living. They'll make a lot more money than the average college graduate will make. And a lot of it goes into their pocket because a lot of times the people don't put the tip on the credit card, they'll just leave cash. Not all the time, but it does happen. You go to the bank and you want to withdraw $75,000 because you're going on vacation. You chartered a yacht and you want to tip the crew, and the tip for a week is going to be $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. The bank will croak. But if they know who you are and you got millions of dollars, yeah, we'll give you $75,000. Then no problem. Here, we'll count it out. You want us to count it out? And I'll just hand it to you. You're not rich. You're not middle class. You're poor. Okay? You're poor. Some of you are very poor. Okay? You're not on the street because he's not going to have you out there begging bread. Okay? Some of you are on social support, like you get government housing or get a stipend or something like that. Okay? But believe me, you're poor. Okay? These people go out and buy necklaces for hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them that do this. Okay? A good men's suit for a big corporate executive is at least $5,000. And they don't wear them more than once or twice or maybe 3 times. Then they give them to charity or give them away or throw them away. They don't want anybody to have it, whatever they do. Okay? And when it's, when, let's say it's August or early September, they'll go to the tailor and they'll buy, 12 or 15 or 20 suits for the fall, 15 or 20 for the winter, 15 or 20 for the spring, 15, 20. And then they'll buy shirts. It'd be nothing to spend $1,000 on a shirt. And ties, $300-500 for ties. Shoes, $800, $1,200. They got shoes, and they're selling sneakers for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 now. Sneakers. The people in Beverly Hills and places like that are running around buying them. They got waiting lists for $400,000 or $500,000 watches. When a guy comes in with a watch like that and wants to trade it for another watch, he gets tired of it or something like that. The guy has a list of people. He calls on the list. Hey, I just got this in. Here's a picture. You gotta let me know fast. It's gonna go quick if you want it. Boom, people buy it. And then they'll wire them the money and they'll ship it to them. All this stuff goes on, guys. You don't have it. They conceal this from you. Okay? The average person doesn't understand how poor they are. Okay? A lot of them have their own planes. If they don't have their own plane, they're charter when they travel. Or they go to the plane and they get one of these little private rooms. They could cost $15,000, $25,000 for a long trip across an ocean. It's cheaper than chartering a plane. You're poor. You got to understand how poor you are. You're poor. I understand it. That makes me more and more furious at them. And they're getting worse with it. The American economy is failing. Okay? Japan, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia have liquidated their U.S. Treasury bonds. Saudi is selling oil and natural gas, not taking the euro or the dollar. BRICS is doing the same thing. The UAE is going to definitely follow suit on Saudi Arabia. Iran is working on Jordan now, and they're probably going to scare Jordan into doing the same thing, as they will Kuwait and these other cowardly dictator countries hiding behind the banner of Islam. Okay, they're dictators. All right? The American economy is on the way down. They have to have Russia and Iran out of the way. Then BRICS will fall apart. Iran is selling tons of oil, beating the sanctions, and believe me, they're not taking dollars or euros for it. Okay, that's hurting America too. All right? The dollar's already begun dropping. The other day the pound was buying, a British pound, $1.31. The euro was $1.10. Pretty soon the euro will buy $1.15, $1.18, $1.20, $1.25. And goods are going to be costing more and more money in America. It's called inflation. Okay? And the Fed is scared, so they're loosening up the money supply now. So credit's going to be easy. So you're going to start seeing people able to afford to buy houses because the interest rate will be down and they'll qualify easier, and then the prices of the houses will inflate and all the same nonsense, okay? And I'm well aware of it. And Israel has the Bank of Israel, which is nothing but the Federal Reserve Bank, except I don't think it's privately owned, but who the heck knows? I don't believe it is. It just makes money out of thin air. There's nobody running around with a gold or silver-backed currency in the world now. Nobody. Okay? America's sort of that. Okay? So you got to understand that you really are poor. Okay? You are. I mean, a lot of you can go out and finance a nice SUV and another car, and you can buy new Levi's, and you could buy a nice shirt or a nice dress, but you don't understand. You're not getting nice things. You've been brainwashed into thinking these are nice things. You buy some with the Polo label. You're not buying Polo with the purple label like they do, because it's 3-4 times the price. Most of the stores you go to don't even stock it. Okay? You're not going to a shoemaker who makes a mold out of wood of your foot, and he tests it. When the mold works, well, then you just look at his catalog and order your shoes. Okay? They rarely buy off the rack. You know, the women will go out and buy designer dresses. No problem $20,000, $30,000, or a not so great dress, $5,000. Women are buying purses commonly now for 35, 50, 80, $100,000. Chanel and others, right? Louis Vuitton. And there's a waiting list to get the new models. You imagine these women go out and buy multiple purses for 30, 50,000. You could live all year on what they drop on a purse. They go to hotels, they rent suites, spend $3, $4, $5, $6, $10, $12,000 a night on a suite. A lot of these suites are duplex. They come with a butler. Okay? Then they order from room service. They'll have a meal delivered. The butler serves it in the room. They'll drop $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 on a meal. They don't want to go out. Boom. Years ago, when the Lord really woke me up, I was in Israel and I finished with the churches, and I was trying to learn spiritual warfare. And I pleaded with the Lord. I wasn't working anymore. I was on unemployment insurance, which in Israel is pretty good. You get half your pay. I mean, if you make a fortune, no, it has a limit, but I had enough to live. And because apartments were cheap then and food was cheap, I had enough to get by. And I was praying in the Spirit and studying the Scriptures all day and learning spiritual warfare. And I pleaded with the Lord to send me an angel to teach me spiritual warfare. Never happened. Send me somebody to teach me spiritual warfare. It never occurred to me there was nobody to send except Apostle John, and it wasn't his time to be unveiled. So this went on for months, and then I just got it out of the Scriptures. He showed it to me, and I learned how to do it, and then I started practicing, and that's warfare. So you're getting in the ring, and you're going to get hit every now and then, and I got hit every now and then, but I recovered, because it says he'll pick you up 7 times, which means he'll keep picking you up as long as you're well intended, and all it takes, and correcting me, showing me mistakes, and I got it, okay, and I shared it with, by now, probably thousands of people. Okay? Gosh, it was horrible doing that, though. And I've been doing this now for, let me think, 12 going on 13 years soon. 12 years plus. The videos, the live streams, whatever. Struggling because the offerings aren't so good. Not having nice cars, although now we have what I would tell you is a very nice car the Lord found for us, and it looks like a new car, but it's 10 years old. So it's still a 10-year-old car, but it has extremely low mileage. It was a rare find. And the guy said if you didn't want to buy it, he had a list of people that wanted to buy it behind us. But since he arranged for us to find it first, these people were somewhat honorable. They said they would sell it to her at the asking price. My wife went and did it. And they didn't raise the price or anything, so they were pretty nice. It was a great car. It was like a new car. Not a brand new car, like maybe a year and a half, 2.5-year-old car or something like that, very low mileage. So see, if you start popping up and you buy yourself a Cadillac Escalade and you got yourself even a 5-bedroom house with 3,000 square feet with nice furniture and stuff like that, I've been there. I had that kind of money for years. I had servants and everything anyway. I was not in America. I was not in Israel. I was in different countries. I moved around. And, the spiritual warfare gets heavy. I mean, Satan starts plotting against you because one of his main themes to his people that serve the unclean spirits, Satan and them, is that they will have wealth and riches if they serve him. See, it's about money. Money's the root of all evil. That's what he pushes on them. And then along comes a spirit-filled believer and has more than they have in many instances, and they go crazy. And they start calling out the unclean spirits and complaining, and how could this be? And Satan gets embarrassed and doesn't know what to happen. And I went like this for, let me think, not quite 20 years, 15, 17, no, maybe 17 years like that, having a very, very comfortable lifestyle, not wealthy, but very comfortable. Vacations whenever you want, but I wasn't chartering jets, I wasn't chartering yachts, I wasn't staying in suites, clothing, I was able to buy good stuff. I never bought a $5,000 suit, but back in the day, 20-something years ago, I was buying sport jackets for $600-$700, and things like this were going on. I'd have multiple cars, not Rolls Royces or Ferraris, but Porsches, Mercedes, things like that. So, the spiritual warfare was amazingly intense, and it took a tremendous amount of my time. So if I was doing that today, it would be taking a tremendous amount of my time. I'm busted up physically. I'm poor. I would say I'm very poor, like you all are, although some of you aren't aware of it. I am. And, I'm just an object of ridicule. They don't pay much attention to me. Okay? I don't really have friends in Israel. I have some acquaintances. I don't have friends. I don't believe the Lord wants me having friends now, because it could be embarrassing down the road. So I've been pleading the Lord that I would get enough money to hire somebody to help me. Okay? A driver, somebody who's fluent in Hebrew to deal with the banks and people like this and stuff like that I occasionally have to deal with. And it, the problem is I would be opening up an entry point for Satan to get into my life. Unless this person was very good at being a believer with spiritual warfare skills. And where are we going to find somebody like that? They have to be Israeli, very fluent in financial and legal terms, stuff like that. Most Americans can't even understand American legal terms. Imagine trying to come with mother tongue English and understanding Israeli or Hebrew, modern Hebrew, legal and financial terms. It's not easy. So I was aware about the healing, so I pleaded with the Lord to show me things that would help me get better in the natural, let's say, so it wouldn't appear miraculous, right? So I got on to the supplements never really did much for me. I know some of them work and a lot of them don't work. I really hardly take any anymore. They're mostly junk, I don't know why, but they don't work for me. So I studied homeopathy years ago from a correspondence course, and that is near impossible to make work. It'll work. They have what they call a constitutional remedy, which I think is a myth. And if you take that, your whole body heals. But it's just a scam, and you can't do that. I mean, I'm not going to get into the details, but it's ridiculous. But you can take it, some of these things for pain or inflammation or a cut. Some of it does really work, but not across your whole body. It just works for a specific thing. Okay, moving along. So I got taken to the red light. So I started acquiring different red light instruments as I could, scratching together. And I started learning the whole industry is full of fraud and everything, and they lie and they promote things, but they all work to some limited extent, but not for what I need, okay? So then I gave up on, I put a good probably 200 hours in reading the the research and stuff, and it doesn't really have side effects, and it does work. And then I started, well, it's not working for me, and then I started learning about other fine points, intensity, frequencies, and how. So then the Lord led me to a company that actually makes good products. So I managed to get together and buy some of them. So they're shipping them to me now, and now I get hit with customs, and they send me a maze of forms. I can't, it's overwhelming me. So I have to fill something out to get something on the government site. So I have to put all my data in. So I'm putting all my data in, and it's working. And then I have to put what the equivalent of a social security number in, which has dashes. So I went nuts, I mean, because when I try to put the dashes in, it doesn't accept it. So then it came to mind that I'm using an English keyboard. I hate having a Hebrew keyboard on my iPad because it pops up at the wrong time, drives me crazy. So now I'll have to reinstall one and see if they have another dash, because I don't know how the Israelis could do it if it won't work on a Hebrew keyboard. So I had to put my name in Hebrew. So I didn't want to put the keyboard in, so I translated my name, and then I cut and pasted out of Google Translate. It was much quicker and easier. It spared me from having a Hebrew keyboard back in there. So that worked, and now I got so please pray for me to be able to get through this. The companies are not very cooperative. I'm afraid they'll send it back, and there's only one company that makes these good devices, and I've been writing them. In the past, they can be very nice, and then they could also be very unnice. So if I can get this form filled out, then I can give them a power of attorney rather easily. It's unbelievable what Netanyahu's done to this country. I cried out to the Lord against this government. Now maybe the Lord wanted me in this mode, because I've really become furious at them now. I'd say it's just too much, okay? It's just too much. Now I'm going to very discreetly read you a scripture. And I'm not going to come right out with it, okay? Isaiah 3:12. I'm going to open this scripture to you. As for my people, so this is pertaining to Israel, children are their oppressors. Now, let me put this into reality for you. Many of the terrorists running around here are teenagers. We've even had terrorists that are very young, I don't know, 10, 11, with knives and stuff. But a lot of them are, 14. Well, you had a shooter in America the other day at 14. We have this all the time in Israel. Teenage kids killing Israelis with knives and guns. The Hamas, the Hezbollah, those kind of people give them a special drug. It's kind of like an ecstasy thing where it's a combination of drugs. I don't know much about it really, but I think it's like ecstasy with like a speed in there, like a benzodrine, dexedrine or something, or methadrine, or I don't know, whatever. And it helps them keep fighting when they get shot. So it's harder to kill them, and it gives them a state of coherence. But I don't know much. I have never taken this ecstasy thing. I don't know what but it enables them to do terrorism better. So that takes care of their oppressors. Children are their oppressors. This goes on all the time right to now in Israel, okay? And women rule over them. Now, this is not talking about women in the Knesset. No. Now, what I'm going to tell you, I know what I'm talking about, and many of you aren't going to believe me, and I can't help that. But we're talking about women and men's clothing, and the leaders around the whole world are this way. You got it. I'm not going to have to elaborate further. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err. Oh, this is infuriating to me because I see what Netanyahu and his boys are doing, what his gang is doing, and destroy the way of thy paths. That's what they're doing. I mean, they keep teaching them all the scriptures of the blessings of the Lord on Israel, and they don't explain to them that when they start using the Talmud and discarding the Torah and not following the Torah, it doesn't work. The curses come on Israel. And that's what happened, and they don't get it, but they keep fooling them. Jehovah standeth up to plead and standeth to judge the people. We'll cover how and when that's going to happen. Jehovah will enter into judgment with the ancient of his people. The word for ancients is the elders of his people, the government, I would say, and the prince thereof. For you have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor in your houses. What mean you that you beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor? That's what life is like here. And I tell you, I exploded last night and today over this. It's just too much to bear anymore. It's painful to bear it. And it's overwhelming me. Not anymore. I got a handle on it, but it's horrible when you know what they're doing. So it says, what mean you that you beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, saith Adonai Jehovah of armies. Moreover, Jehovah saith, because the daughter of Zion are haughty, and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making tinkling with their feet. Therefore, Jehovah will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and Jehovah will discover the secret parts. How about expose the secret parts that wear the clothes of one sex but really are the other sex? Do you got it yet? In that day, Jehovah will take away the bravery of the tinkling ornaments. That's for the Satan bots, the wealthy ones, about your feet, and their calls and their round tires like the moon. The chains and the bracelets and the mufflers, this is all their wealth, wearing their wealth. The bonnets and the ornament of the legs, and the headband and the tablets and the earrings. The ultra-Orthodox, the Orthodox wear these headbands a lot. The rings and the nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and what is a wimple? Oh, a cloak, and the crisping pins, the glasses and the fine linen. Yeah, there's Swarovski crystal and the other good expensive, glassware, and the fine linen, the very expensive things from Egypt, the good stuff. And the hoods and the veils, they also wear linen, fur coats. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink, and instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of well-set hair, baldness, and instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Burning. That's how they go. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and the mighty in the war. Well, that's the end of the IDF, I guess. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she, being desolate, shall sit upon the ground. Well, this is what's going on here. The royal families are doing the same thing as this, with the clothes of the opposite, you know what I mean? All right. It's hard to bear. It really is. So pray for me. And pray that I get through this customs thing somehow, so I could get these red light things, because I think they'll be beneficial. I searched the Lord what to get, and I spent days before I made the purchases, and He came through, you know. So my vision has gotten very poor, but this helped because I'm online too much. I'm using the computers, the iPads too much. And other things. I mean, it could be unrelated to that too, but so this helps. The stuff I have now has been helping. I'm not deteriorating. I'm getting better slightly. Slightly getting better means you're not getting any worse and you're improving, but it comes real slow. And there's other things like getting up at night to go to the bathroom. This stuff has reduced that. I'm just giving you my experiences. I don't know if it'll work for you or anybody else. I'm not a doctor and I can't say that, but it did work on me. That's all I can say, you know, my personal experience. So the stuff works, and it helped. I used to have people pray for different things that have healed up. It really works. So, but it's such a despiteful industry, how people are, it's just full of charlatans. And then I found one place that actually does it correctly, and people don't know about it, and you know, so there you have it. And you know, it's, so I'm having a rough time here, and I just want to go out of the gate already. It's just so bad. So that's my but please pray for me that I get through these, I get these packages, I get through the customs, they get here, and you know, please pray for that, and pray that they work well. God could always help that. And pray that the Lord does Ezekiel 34, which is the destruction of the bad shepherds of Israel, which would be the government and the rabbis, and the Satan bots, which are the rich cattle, the cattle that push the lean cattle out of the way in Ezekiel 34. Pray that that happens quick, which is Zechariah 13:9, the 2/3, and we're going to cover that when we talk about Elijah. Okay, so that was a mouthful. So that sets the stage for what we're going to get into today. And I'm not going to pay a great deal of attention today to how much time we're on. I want to get this done. And I guess now it would be appropriate for me to jump into the live stream and make sure it's working right. Sound and picture and everything is working. Chief's recovering still, getting better and better. Alright, I want to put a couple of quick posts up in the chat real quick, which takes a very brief period of time. If I talk too much, I'll make typos. I'm going to put my email address up if any of you want to send in prayer requests. You can put them in the chat. If you want more privacy, you could email them in to me and give me the initials, the two initials of the person or persons you want the prayer requests for. Okay? And that's all free. Okay, I finished with that. You see a lot of people come in and go out here. What that is, those are the people that come in here to curse us, insult us, you know, put flags of our enemies up and stuff like that. And they come in and they realize that they've been blocked and they can't post. So they have no reason to be here. They're not interested in what we have to say. They just want to insult us and things like that. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. I forgot something that I wanted to bring in here, and I left it. All right, before we get into will Elijah begin working openly during a ceasefire period with Hamas in Gaza, which should shut down Hezbollah during this period and the Houthis and the Iran-backed militias in Syria and Iraq. Let's talk about what's going on. Iran is scared, period. There's no other way to look at it. They're afraid that Russia cannot come and help them because of the problems in Ukraine with NATO and all of that, and they're correct. China is probably not going to do much of anything at all for them, which is correct. If Russia fights NATO, which they may or may not do, so far during the whole 2 years of the Ukraine war, Putin has just shown a fear of doing that. His country has been invaded and parts of land have been conquered, although it's just about 125 square kilometers. It is rather threatening. How would America respond if, let's say, Mexico came in and took 125 square kilometers of Texas? You know how they'd respond. China wants to take Taiwan back and unify it with China, and North Korea wants to take South Korea and unify it with North Korea. Japan has no intentions of sitting still if that happens because they know they're next, so they're going to get in the fight. South Korea will get in the fight, and Taiwan will get in the fight. Guam is a big American base, it'll be in the fight. Australia will send whatever precious little they can send to help, which will be very little, but they will kick in. New Zealand, I doubt, will do anything. And China's pretty nervous too. It's an approach avoidance conflict. They want the conquest, but they're afraid of the damage. But they have to do something, because the United States is crushing China with sanctions. Their massive real estate market has failed already. It's crashing. It past tense for months now. Russia's economy is holding up, but the sanctions are painful to Russia. And the war with Ukraine is very painful to Russia. And the fact that NATO is in on this war, using Ukraine as a proxy against Russia, which is really the truth, it also is very hurting to Putin. Now, Putin has come up with dozens and dozens of red lines and threats and done nothing. And that doesn't mean he'll never do anything. Let's go back to high school. This kid that goes to high school, he's a geek. Short, not strong, not athletic, not a fighter. Getting picked on by a football player sized big bully. Give me your lunch money, give me this, give me your phone, One day the bully is going to turn around and punch the guy in the face. And that changes the whole perspective. Now, sometimes the bully will just go to work on the geek and put him in the hospital, Other times, he may not. Now, the problem here is Iran and America are both bullies. But America is a much bigger bully than Iran. And Iran made themselves deals with Russia and China with mutual defense, but Russia can't fulfill. Iran's actually been helping Russia with drones, thousands, and missiles. I don't know how many, not thousands, but probably hundreds. if Russia fights NATO, Russia's going to be fighting on 4 or 5 fronts like Israel. They absolutely cannot get involved in the Middle East. And they may not be able to handle just fighting NATO. Russia's best way out of this is to just conquer Ukraine, which is what he's trying to do. But now he runs the risk of America giving Ukraine long-range missiles that can go to Moscow and St. Petersburg and get in and cause damage. And there's a big risk of NATO putting something like 80,000 troops in Ukraine to stop Russia with air support and tanks and everything else. So Russia's been anti-Israel since 1948, arming the Arab enemies and everything else. So Russia's got a big problem. Can't help Iran. China can't. That means Iran's a sitting duck. And this whole October 7th thing was allowed to happen to stir up the Middle East, in my opinion, punish Israel, force Israel to do a 2-state solution, give the West Bank back, and at the same time suck Iran in and destroy Iran. Because Iran is messing with the oil industry, using BRICS to downgrade the American dollar and the economy, and they're intimidating the other oil-producing countries in the Middle East to submit to them by fear. If the Saudis don't give in to Iran, the Houthis will start a war again with the Saudis. And they demonstrated in the last year and a half, they could hit their Aramco oil refinery. They hit it twice on 2 different occasions. One time it was 1 missile, and the other time it was 2. But the next time it could be 15 missiles and 30 drones, and it would take them 3 years to rebuild the Aramco refinery, if ever. The weapons that the Houthis have now are better than what they had 6 months, a year ago. Since they have a border, they can ground invade Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia doesn't believe that America would really help them. So about a month ago, Saudi Arabia said we're no longer selling oil and gas for dollars or euros. So that was a punch in the mouth to America. Okay? The threat from Iran and the Houthis scared them. Now, they come out with an announcement. They go to Turkey. They tell Erdogan that he has to go and rally all the Arab states to save the Palestinians in Gaza. So what Saudi Arabia is saying is, let's go, let's militaristically save the Gaza. Now, what Erdogan will do about it, I don't know. Hamas in Gaza has lost, okay? And the only thing stopping them, the only reason there's a peace talk going on is because of the hostages. Without that, I don't think there'd be much of it going on. they would just call for a probably a surrender with a lot of punishing terms in it for Hamas. It would be rather punishing. Once they give up the hostages, they don't have anything anymore. They have no war deterrence, so they lost. And they're now waiting to get rescued from Hezbollah. Well, 2 weeks or so, or 2.5 weeks ago, Hezbollah readied 6,700 long-range missile launchers to attack Israel. And we blew them up. We had 100 jets in the air at one time. Do you understand what kind of a massive attack that is? It's huge. And we were successful. Now it appears all that Iran has to work with are these short-range Katyushas, and they're pelting them down daily on the communities near the border with Lebanon, which are civilian areas, but you know, the Muslims are not held liable for war crimes. Just the Jews, apparently. There's nobody living there anymore. Probably 98% of the people have evacuated, so it's just property damage. And Israel keeps dismantling Hezbollah every day. Multiple attacks, targeted assassinations, missiles and weapon depots, and so forth. Okay? So Hamas doesn't want to agree to a ceasefire that leaves them defenseless, no longer a terrorist organization with no hope of returning, because that's how they make their money. The leaders of Hamas are billionaires. They're like Trump. They don't want this to stop. Nobody's going to give them any money if they can't pose a threat to Israel. So for them to keep in the chips, they got to have several things happen. One, Israel has to completely withdraw from Gaza, lock, stock, and barrel. And the ceasefire has to be permanent. And they're looking for countries to enforce these terms. Okay? They want Israel to remove itself completely from Gaza before they return any hostages. They won't tell us how many hostages they have, who they are, what their condition medically is, no proof of life signs, nothing. So they could have 20 hostages, 10, 5, we don't know. They think there's 70-something living hostages. They're not sure. So let's say that they give up the hostages before Israel leaves, and that means they got no bargaining power. Then as soon as they shoot one rocket into Israel, boom, Israel's back at attacking them. Which is basically destroying them. And this is something that Hamas is acutely aware of, because if they don't continue attacking Israel, they're not going to be receiving any more money from their supporters, like Iran, and there's others. Believe me, there's others. That's how they keep terrorists from being active in their country, is they support these terrorist groups. They don't talk about it, but that's what goes on. It's called extortion, or shakedown money. So, Hamas has to preserve themselves to kill us again another day. So they don't want any Israeli presence on the Philadelphia corridor, so they could get Egypt to allow them to smuggle more weapons in and try to kill Israel again another day. It could be in as little as 2 weeks. So they probably intend that even though it's a permanent ceasefire, they'll shoot missiles at Israel, and then when Israel invades them and stuff, they'll say you broke the ceasefire. You see how dumb they are? How demented they are? Okay. Israel knows this. The latest proposal now this will kill you, is that the UAE would put together a military force to go into Gaza by the Philadelphia corridor to prevent smuggling. Now, let me tell you something about the United Arab Emirates military. They were trained by the Houthis for 9 years. Yep. The Houthis built a base for them to come train there, or they built the base in UAE, someplace they trained them. Now, you think Houthi trained army from a Muslim Sharia law country is going to be honest and fair and stop weapons smuggling coming into Gaza? I don't. You have to be the village idiot to believe that. Now, Biden thinks we're all the village idiot. But Netanyahu let Hamas build up all these weapons and smuggle in concrete and steel girders to build what looks like about 400 miles of tunnels. Now, tell me Netanyahu didn't know anything about this all these years. I don't believe that. He knew. Why didn't he stop it? Because he's walking with the gods of the dead. That's why. And you could find evidence for that by those parades he runs through Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. You know the ones I'm talking about, which is completely against the Torah. And it's infuriating to Jehovah. And he does it for that reason. He wants to show the world that his God reigns in Israel. Then Jehovah is his God. So we're going to trust him now. We have to be crazy. We have to be completely crazy. Nonetheless, it looks like they're getting closer and closer to a ceasefire. Netanyahu seems to be agreeing to leaving Gaza and letting the Philadelphia corridor go. Now, there's still some major obstacles, but Hamas is now getting scared. Now, this is what we're being told by Lebanese government is that many of the Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon are not happy with Nasrallah anymore. In terms, they could be thinking it's time for Nasrallah to resign and probably one of them from their ranks takes over. They probably believe Nasrallah made a really bad mistake by having 6,700 missile launches hanging out there in the breeze, hoping Israel wouldn't do a preemptive strike when Israel did such a preemptive strike. So Hezbollah is significantly weakened, and the chances of them being able to do anything right now to cause Israel to throw the towel in with Hamas in Gaza is very, very non-existent, really. Iran's been trying to smuggle weapons in there with convoys. Israel's been repeatedly stopping them. And lately they managed to sneak some weapons in on small vehicles, like probably pickups, SUVs, which wouldn't be large ballistic missiles, Katyushas and anti-tank missiles and stuff like that. But now Israel's up on it, and it won't be happening again. They'll figure out a way to stop it. Okay, so Hezbollah ain't coming to the rescue. The militias in Iraq and Syria ain't coming to the rescue. Houthis can't do anything. They're too far away, and that leaves Hamas swinging in the breeze. And Hamas people are getting split too. And you're seeing Houthis, Hamas, Houthis in Yemen, Hamas, and Hezbollah, and to some extent the militias in Syria and Iraq, backed by Iran, are losing confidence in Iran because of their obvious fear to push the revenge attack they promised. So they're getting the idea that Iran is all bark and no bite. They want to change leadership. The Houthis, I think, are pretty much okay with it. So they have dissension amongst their ranks, and Sinwar has to be very worried about that, because if they overthrow Sinwar, they might just give him a dirt nap. What they would probably do is say that Sinwar got killed in a bombing attack and we have to revenge him when they killed him anyway. So that this is some of the things that could happen. So Netanyahu has been given a lot of ground. The Hamas wants an exchange of prisoners, terrorist prisoners in Israel, for each hostage. And they've been talking about 500 terrorists for one hostage. And I don't think Biden and Netanyahu are going to entertain anything stupid like that. Biden's, negotiators will say, I thought you wanted to be real about that. Well, if you don't want a ceasefire, we'll just give Israel all the bombs they need and tell them, go ahead, you're going to kill the hostages anyway, so go for it. And you'll be destroyed. We'll let Israel destroy you. We'll veto anything in the UN Security Council, and you'll all be dead. Sign the stinking document already. Okay, that's essentially how the Biden team is going to talk to Hamas, and Hamas is talking to them. And in addition, we found out that Iran, they got a new president in Iran because somebody killed the old one, probably Israel, and they got a new one, and he's been changing many of the key people in the government with intelligence, military, things like that, and the major high-ranking officers in the military. He's been swapping them around for his own people. So this further delays Iran doing anything, because when you change the leadership, it accomplishes much, but then they have to put the sub leaders, you know, their people, so they can maintain good control of their own military. They can't use the other guy's people with his old practices and procedures and policies. So it takes time. Basically, Iran is not going to attack anytime soon. That doesn't mean America won't attack Iran. Iran is still an active enemy of America. And by giving weapons to Russia, they're infuriating America and the EU and NATO. Because that means they have to give more weapons to Ukraine, and they're mad about that. Biden could be waiting for the NATO attack on Russia, or Russia attacking NATO first. Net effect, Russia gets broken into pieces. He could be waiting for that and then go get Iran. But I think NATO fighting Russia is getting to an any day time now. I don't know how much longer Putin could take it. He won't have a Russia if he waits much longer. And then go after Iran, or he might go after Iran first to cut the weapons flow to Russia down and to reduce the threat in the Middle East and stop Iran from turning countries against America like they did with Saudi Arabia. As the dollar weakens and the economy goes to seed, the churches in America are going to have a lot of trouble keeping their big 20-foot doors open with their big cathedrals and camera systems, and, you know. There's a lot of trouble that Iran has. Iran is weak. Israel said they'll attack their oil refineries, their pipelines, their ports and piers where they offload gas and oil, and they know Israel can fly in with the stealth jets and take it out. And they're afraid. So that's causing Hamas to negotiate again. But their demands are still fairly stupid, and it just remains to be seen. What I think you might see is a temporary ceasefire with Israel keeping a partial amount of troops inside Gaza, and then hostages coming back. But Israel, and I'd say even Biden, want all the hostages given up right away to get the bargaining power away from Hamas. It might come to pass, the way Netanyahu's given ground to demonstrations in Israel against Netanyahu because he's not bringing the hostages home, are dangerous to Netanyahu politically. If he gets thrown out of office, his 3 criminal cases will activate very rapidly, and he could be doing a 16-year stint in jail if he gets the maximum penalty. So rest assured, beyond a shadow of belief, that Netanyahu has got a real problem. If he does something too stupid, Ben Gvir and Smotrich and the right-wing party can call for a vote of no confidence, and they might be able to upseat Netanyahu where he's out of office, and they can snap election in a day or two. They get a new prime minister, and then Netanyahu faces his criminal cases fairly immediately, and the courts have it in for him because he's been fighting against the courts. So they would like to get rid of Netanyahu in the ways the people in America would like to get rid of Biden and Kamala. So there, I would have to say there is a very distinct possibility that there will arrive at some sort of a ceasefire. It would probably have stages beginning with 6 weeks and then a goal to, a permanent ceasefire. And although and let's look at the scriptures and see if we can detect things in the prophecies that that lead us to think that there could be some sort of a ceasefire. One guy was filling the place up with posts, put an Israeli flag up with flames around it. I didn't think that was so nice. Okay, so let's go to the book of Malachi, and I suppose we should take a look at what Malachi 1 says. Start there. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel. I have loved you, saith Jehovah, yet you say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith Jehovah, yet I loved Yaakov, Jacob in English, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Wherefore, whereas Edom saith, Edom I believe is Yemen now. Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build in the desolate places. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, they shall build, but I will throw down. I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Jehovah hath indignation forever. Well, they're certainly pretty evil down in Yemen. Are your eyes, and your eyes shall see, and you shall see, Jehovah will be magnified from the border of Israel. See, the church world thinks the word of the Lord and the blessings and all that are going to go forth from the nations to Israel, which is nonsense. A son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then be a father, where is my honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Saith Jehovah of armies unto you, O codenamed priests, that despise my name. And you say, wherein have we despised thy name? Now today they despise his name because they say the Torah, Moses' books, were written for the heathen, and the the true commandments were the true commandments are the oral law of Moses, which is not true, which they wrote down into a series of books called the Talmud, which contradicts the Bible, and they follow that, and they mock the Bible, and this is a sad thing. You offer polluted bread upon my altar. Well, there's no altar today for them to do that on. And you say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that you say, the table of Jehovah is contemptible. Okay, we need to break words down. The word for table, 7979 Strong's number, and Strong's puts it into so the table, it can mean a king's table. Shulchan is the word. It's basically saying, doing the offerings, to Jehovah are contemptible. And the word for contemptible is betzar, which would mean contemptible disdain. They don't like it, but much stronger than that. And if you offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? See, they'll say, well, the Bible doesn't say I can't give the blind, so I'll give the blind, And if you offer the lame, so you offer the lame and the sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith Jehovah of armies? And now I pray you, beseech God, that he will be gracious unto us. This hath been by your means. Will he regard your persons, saith Jehovah of armies? Who is there even among you that would shut the doors for naught? Neither do you kindle fire on my altar for naught. I have no pleasure in you, saith Jehovah of armies, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. 2,000 years they never even attempted to build an altar, which they could have built. Nothing. The rabbis, of course, didn't want that. For from the rising of the sun even unto the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the heathen, and in every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering for my name shall be great among the heathen, saith Jehovah of hosts. Well, remember, they bring the children of Israel back to Israel as an offering unto the Lord. That's one way it manifests. But you have profaned it, in that you say, the table of the Lord is polluted, and the fruit thereof, even his meat, is contemptible. See, they follow the Talmud, not the Torah. You said also, behold, what a weariness is it, and you have snuffed at it, saith Jehovah of armies, and you brought that which was torn, and the lame, and the sick. Thus you brought an offering. Should I accept this of your hand, saith Jehovah? You see, Yeshua was the lamb offering, which is actually a sin offering. Not a sin offering, it's a peace offering. And of course, you're not going to have peace without the sins being erased. So they did that too. But Yeshua was without spot, wrinkle, and blemish, and the way that manifested is the Pharisees and Sadducees examined him. They kept asking him questions, and he, of course, with the anointing he handled every question they had admirably, wonderfully. So they didn't realize they were examining him to show he was out without blemish, spot, or wrinkle, but yet they did it. They didn't know any better. Verse 14, Malachi 1. But cursed be the deceived, which hath in his flock a male, and voweth and sacrificeth unto the Lord a corrupt thing, for I am a great king, saith Jehovah. Jehovah of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. Not quite yet, but very shortly. Malachi 2. Now this is a very real scripture, and it's very hard for a lot of you to accept that came up in the church world, and I'll open it up for you very well, I think. And now, O you Kohanim, priests, that's all the Kohanim are Levites, but these are Levites that are descended from Aaron, okay? And the sons of Zadok are all Levites, and they're all Kohanim, but their family lineage ties them to Zadok, okay? This is the commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart to give glory unto my name, saith Jehovah of armies, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Now let's get into what he really means about this. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, your descendants, and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. The word one is added in. It says, and shall take you away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment. This is a commandment. Now the word for the commandment is a mitzvah. The commandments of the law are called mitzvot, the plural for mitzvah. Unto you. So this is a law, a commandment, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. And the church will never teach you that he has a commandment with Levi, and we know the Lord's not a covenant breaker. Yes, the Levites broke the covenant. Yes, they're breaking it today, mostly. I'm a Levite, I'm a Kohanim, and rather get into Zadok, I know that too. It would have to be so. I'll leave it at that for some of you that understand. But the Jews don't track being a Zadokite. They track who's a Kohen and they track who's a Levite. But I know that, but I'm not going to try to debate it with you. Okay? So there's certain things that's not appropriate to talk about today. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant, that word covenant is brit, might be with Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now let's look at that covenant. My covenant was with him of life and peace. The word for peace is shalom. You're familiar with that. Life is chai, and you're familiar with that word too, if you've been following me. And I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me and was afraid before my name. Now, they're not afraid anymore. They're blotting his name out, telling him you can't, telling the people in Israel and around the world, the Jews, you can't pronounce the name Jehovah, you can't write it down. It's a sin to do so, so they say Hashem, the name. Well, we don't know who the heck they mean, but that's, of course, absurd. But they do it, and the people buy it. The law of truth, okay, the Torah of, it would be emet, which means truth. Sometimes Israelis talk and someone will say, really? And they say, Ba'emet, and Ba'emet means in truth, you know. It would be like in English saying, no, it's true, you know. The law of truth was in his mouth, and lawlessness was not found in his lips. Now, we're going to see in the next chapter Elijah burning the dross out of the Levites and training them to operate in righteousness. And this is what he's going to be correcting, Elijah. And iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace, in shalom, and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. Have I turned many of you away from lawlessness? Think. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge. What's the word for knowledge? 1847 Strong's. Da'at. Let's see how Strong's throws it into English, puts it into English. Knowledge, cunning, awares. Have I taught you knowledge and cunning, how to do spiritual warfare, what's going on, how the enemy works? Have I done that? For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the Malach, the messenger of Jehovah of hosts. The priest, let's go through this, and I'm going to kick against the church severely now. I'm not just kicking over a sacred cow, I'm shooting it with a cannon, okay? For the priest's lips, the Kohanim's lips, should keep knowledge. And they should seek the law. They, the people, seek the law, the Torah, at the mouth of the Kohanim, because he's the messenger of Jehovah of armies, and God has a covenant with them that he didn't break. And if you have a Kohanim or a Levite that's a true believer in the true gospel filled with the Holy Spirit, tell me that covenant doesn't apply. Tell me, I want to hear it. Show me a scripture. Does he say he did away with the covenant? He canceled it? He threw it out the window? No. He's punishing them because they broke the covenant. The covenant still stands, just like Yeshua covenant still stands. It still stands. The Shabbat still stands. But ye are departed out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law, at the Torah. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. If they corrupted the covenant of Levi, it's still there to corrupt. That's your Ezekiel 34 rabbis today. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Have we not all one Father? Hath not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously every man against his brother by profaning the covenant, the breach of our fathers. This is why I was crying out to the Lord. It's so painful to be here with this going on, so widespread, 2/3 this way. It's horrible being here. It's not that Israel's horrible. The Israel today is horrible because of what's going on here. Yeah, missiles, rockets, terrorists, lying governments of the most despicable satanic nature, and it's just horrible. And the people are at each other's throats in Israel. Judah has dealt treacherously, and an abomination, they're doing that right now, and an abomination is committed in Israel. What about those parades in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv? You think that's not an abomination? Tell me. The other things they do in Israel is an abomination. Hello? Oh, she's moving the door. Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. They just opened up in the hospitals a nice new LGBTQ wing in Israel. Where do you think that fits in this passage? For Judah hath profaned the holiness of Jehovah, which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange god. Well, they're worshiping strange gods. Jehovah will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering unto Jehovah of hosts. This is Ezekiel 34. And this have you done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping and with crying out. They go to the Wailing Wall and do this now. They have people standing there, ultra-Orthodox, 24 hours a day, making believe they're crying. Insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receiveth it with good will at your hand. Yet you say, wherefore? Because Jehovah hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. See, they can just put their wives away whenever they want. The Orthodox Jews, they go to religious court and they just divorce. They make a covenant before they get married, called a ketubah, and it's complicated. Yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. Well, the wife gets old and they want a young one, and they'll dump her. You see, the Kohanim is who the people need to go to for teaching. The church will never teach you that because they're not Kohanim. And they lie and say they've spread the gospel throughout the world. They've spread Satan's gospel throughout the world, not the real gospel. And did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. For Jehovah Elohim Yisrael saith that he hateth putting away, for one covereth violence with his garment, saith Jehovah of hosts. Therefore take heed to your spirit, that you deal not treacherously. That could be adultery too, is treacherously dealing with the wife. You don't divorce her, you just go out and have relations with other women. You could have multiple wives. Solomon did it, David did it, others did it, You could do that. Abraham, There's no provision against that in the law. Go find it. You can't. There's something in the New Testament, something like that. I think it says the elder should be but the husband of one wife. Well, what if you're not one of those elders? What if there's no more congregations where there are no elders? Well, then you're free. You have wearied Jehovah with your words, yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When you say, every one that doeth evil is good in the sight of Jehovah, and he delighteth in them. Or where is the God of judgment? See, they think they could do whatever they want and get away with it. As long as they, observe the Sabbath and, observe the holidays and, stuff like that. But they don't observe anything, right? Behold, I will send my Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. Now, we need to read a few other scriptures at this point, outside of Malachi, for me to focus this for you. Let's go to Matthew 17, verse 11. We're going to begin studying Elijah now. Matthew 17:11. And Yeshua answered and said unto them, Elijah truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elijah is come already. They knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. This was John the Baptist. They asked him if he was Elijah. He said no. He had the spirit of Elijah. He didn't complete. He died. The next time when Elijah comes, which is already in Israel, he's not going to fail. Now, the word for come, that Elijah is come, is Strong's number 2064. And this word 2064, the meaning Strong's puts on it is accompany, appear, bring, come, enter. Okay. Elijah appeared, or maybe accompanied or showed up, whatever. Already, okay. So that explains John the Baptist. Let's keep digging. Second Kings 1 verse 8. Verse 8. And they answered him, he was a hairy man, and girt with a girdle of leather about his loins, and he said, it is Elijah the Tishbite. You see, John the Baptist dressed similar to Elijah. He was hidden in the wilderness until the time of his unveiling came. Elijah and Apostle John are not yet fully unveiled with Elijah. Next verse is Mark 9:12. Now again, I'm going to shoot a bazooka at the sacred cow of the churches right here. And he answered and told them, Elijah verily cometh first, and restoreth all things, and how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things and be set at naught. But I say unto you that Elijah has indeed come, and they have done unto him whatsoever they listed, as it is written of him. Okay. So it says, Elijah verily come, and that word can mean appear. It's 2064. First, and the word for first, well, it's in the Greek, but it's proton. Well, let's take a look at Strong's. Why not? First, yeah, it means first in time. Okay. Okay. Now, when he says his first come, he's not talking about coming before Apostle John appears. No. We'll keep digging and I'll show you what he means. Back to Mark 9:12, one quick trip back. And he answered and told them, Elijah verily cometh first and restoreth all things. Okay, Elijah comes and restores all things. You got to get that. Okay? Now we're going to do the next scripture and put it together. Acts 3:20. Now the bazooka hits the church. Or maybe it's a ballistic missile. I don't know. And he shall send Yeshua HaMashiach, which before was preached unto you, whom the heaven must receive until the times of restitution of all things, which God had spoken by the mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began. Yeshua can't come back until Elijah restores all things. All these church jackasses, any day the rapture, wait, bye, we're going up, and all this stuff, Yeshua's coming down to earth. It can't happen until Elijah restores all things. A similar scripture. Psalm 110:1. The Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. That's part of restoring all things. The last two things to be restored can be Apostle John and Elijah returning to heaven in a cloud after they're resurrected from the dead. Think about that. We'll develop that momentarily. John 3:13. And no man hath ascended to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. Now, Yeshua went up to heaven on a cloud. Did he not? After he was resurrected from the dead. Did he not? He did. What happens to the two witnesses after they're resurrected from the dead? They go up on a cloud to heaven. And no man hath ascended to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. It doesn't say only the Son of Man. He starts out, no man hath ascended to heaven, but he that came down from heaven. So when you see Moses and Elijah appearing on the Mount of Transfiguration in all their glory, they came down from heaven. I told you, Moses is the Son of God. He had that great power, which God doesn't just hand out to anybody. Malachi 4 verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet. It would be pronounced Eliah HaNavi, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. He burns the dross out of them and teaches them how to be righteous and stuff. Ephesians 5:26. That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water of the word, by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. Now, let's get the meanings of these words here, okay? Verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. We can grasp that. Then he might present it. Okay, the word for present is not exactly present. It means stand beside. Stand beside. This is not the rapture. This is him coming down with New Jerusalem, where he sits enthroned with the glory of God of Israel next to him, and people can see him and, I guess, talk to him. That's just stand beside. But he wants them without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. So now you got to deal with your denominations and your different doctrinal statements, your variants, your seditions in Galatians 5:19-21. That says those that do these things aren't going to enter the kingdom of God. That excludes the churches, kids. Okay? Let me check the chat. We'll go back to Malachi. Elijah was not John, because they asked John the Baptist if he was Elijah, and he said no. Came in the spirit of Elijah. Elisha was operating in the spirit of Elijah also. He got a double portion of his spirit. Don't be deceived. If John the Baptist was asked if he was Elijah and he said no when he really was, he'd be a liar. And how could God use a liar? I rest my case. Okay, Malachi, where are we in? 3? 4, I think 3. Behold, I will send my Malach, that's messenger, he shall prepare the way before me. That way is Yeshua returning to earth. restitution of all things. And the Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come to his, it's the Adonai, come to his temple, even the Malach of the covenant, and I think this is back to Elijah, whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, and saith Jehovah of armies. But who may abide the day of his coming? Now, who's going to stand on the day of his coming, you see? And who shall stand when he appeareth? He's here, but he's not appearing as Elijah yet, openly. For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. See, an offering in righteousness isn't saying, well, you got to pet the animal on the head while you lead him to the altar. You got to talk softly to him. You got to work the knife this way. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about how they need to live their life, how they need to establish a relationship with Jehovah and their brothers and sisters and neighbors and friends and parents and children and everybody in Israel. That's what he's teaching them. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, well, the 10 tribes aren't here, so they're not listed there as Israel or Ephraim, be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, that brings the blessings of the law on Israel. And that you'll see evidenced shortly. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the witches, the adulterers, the false swearers, against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, and the widow, and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. Okay, this is what he's talking about. Okay, they're getting cut off. This is found in Ezekiel 34. It's the 2/3 getting cut off in Zechariah 13 verses 8 and 9. For I am Jehovah, I change not, therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers you are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of armies. But you said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even the whole nation. Bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now wherewith saith Jehovah of armies, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. See, when they don't do the tithes and the offerings, they're robbing God. The way God sets his system up, see, has a person feed you the spiritual things, and then so he doesn't have to work and can devote his time to feeding you the spiritual things, you provide him with the carnal things. But there's many people that come and listen to me all the time that don't do this, and they're robbing God. Now they should know it. Not that I think they're going to do much about it. they went out from among you because they are not of you. They'll probably go out from among us because they're not of us. They're not going to give because money's just the root of all evil. What they're doing is covetousness, like Ananias and Sapphira, and look how they ended up. That's how these people will end up too. They're not going to get in the kingdom. They'll have excuses. Oh, this one's like a Copeland, or this, it's excuses to cover up the truth that their heart is evil. And I will rebuke, because they're covetous, I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. That's the bugs that eat the crops. And he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah of hosts. And all nations, all heathen nations, shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith Jehovah of hosts. Your words have been stout against me, saith Jehovah. Yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve God, and what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before Jehovah of armies? And now we call him proud. We call the proud happy, and yea, they that work wickedness are set up, yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. I was crying out to the Lord because the people, the believers all over, have to live like this. How hard it is on them. That's what it was, and myself being one of them. That's how I was crying out to the Lord, because I'm subject to them too. Then they that feared Jehovah spake often one to another, and Jehovah hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Jehovah and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Jehovah of armies, in that day. That day is that day in Zechariah 12, when they look upon the Son of Man in the clouds. When I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. Very soon. Because the ones that serve God are going to be shining like Moses did when he came down from Mount Sinai. Isaiah 60, verse 1. Arise, shine, your light has come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. The earth is covered with darkness. The people with the Kosik, the gross darkness. Okay. Next is Malachi 4. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his extremities. The Son, S-U-N, Shemesh in Hebrew, of righteousness, that means Yeshua. Arise with healing in his, not the wings, it's kanaf, it's the extremities. The outer border of the robes they wore, the tunics, the robes, had all the tassels around the whole outer borders of the garment, not just four hanging off the belt or something. And the woman with the issue of blood grabbed one of these tassels, it's called a tzitzit, and she got healed. And Yeshua said, oh, I felt it go out of me. And the woman got scared, and he said, no, it's fine. Why shouldn't you be healed? And all that. Okay. So that was to let everybody know that the Son of Righteousness for healing his extremities is Yeshua. arise with healing in its extremities, and you shall go forth and frolic about as calves from a stall. When you look John 6:40, those that are believers, he pours his spirit out on them at the beginning of Zechariah 12, and 12:10, and then they see him, they receive everlasting life, and you become young again, and that's why you frolic about as calves of the stall. Now, if you're already young, you're just going to stay young, but you're going to be super healthy and super energized and everything else. And you shall tread down, it's very possible you no longer have to sleep, because Jerusalem stays open day and night, and there's light there and everything. So I don't think that the believers sleep anymore. I don't think they need to. I'm not sure, but it looks that way. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this. Well, those that are surrounding Judah and Jerusalem on the right and the left, they're going to get burned up in Zechariah 12:6. The two witnesses burned them up. But why would the people in Israel be treading on those ashes at this time? Because the ashes wouldn't be in Israel. So these are the wicked that are getting burned up. The wicked of Israel, the Ezekiel 34. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb. That's the same law the church tells you is done away with. For all Israel. And if you're in Yeshua HaMashiach, you're in Israel. He's the king of Israel, the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, the son of God, and he calls you his brethren, and then you're going to tell me you're not in Israel? Who put that sickness in your head? Where'd you get that from? For all Israel with the statutes and judgments, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, which is going to happen like about 70 years from the initial appearing of Yeshua in the cloud, the second 70. Okay. And it says, I will send. Let's look at that word. Shaliach, yeah, send, like a messenger, send messenger. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So we go back to Malachi 3. Behold, I will send my Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Jehovah and Adonai whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Even the Malach of the covenant whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith the Lord. So there's two of them he's speaking about. Who shall stand when he appeareth? Maybe he burns them up when he appeareth. No, he needs time to train the Levites. That's not going to take an hour. And I would expect that's before they see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, because if they did, and the Lord put and Jehovah put the law in their heart, in their inward part, and gave them a heart of flesh, I do not believe Elijah would have to be training them. So it's before that. And it's when they perform the sacrifices with righteousness, the blessings of the Lord come on them, including the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man and them having everlasting life. This has nothing to do with Gog and Magog, which is going to be almost 70 years down the road. Then shall the offerings of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old and in former years. And I will come near to you to judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerer. So here we see him, getting rid of, this is the getting rid of them. So I hope I put some pieces together for you. What Elijah did was the use of signs and wonders, miracles. He got the people of Israel back to Jehovah. And that's what we'll do again. Only in this time. Same Elijah, different time. Okay. Let's see. Bangladesh, wow. Someone posted Matthew 11:14. Let's see. I don't know all the scriptures by heart. And if you will receive it, this is Elijah which was for to come. Okay, one more time. John the Baptist was asked if he was Elijah, and he said no. If he was lying, how could God use him? Yeshua said the spirit of Elijah was in John the Baptist. John the Baptist had the Holy Spirit inside him when he was in the womb. He never went ahead and had to pray for the baptism of the Holy Spirit. He had it in the womb. He was special. Okay? He didn't do signs and wonders like Elijah. He wasn't Elijah. Elijah did signs and wonders. Elisha did signs and wonders. Okay? He had the spirit of Elijah, but that was all. As did Elisha. So the church will teach you, oh, John the Baptist was it, Elisha's never going to come, forget about it. Let's go back to you're going to have your head cut off, or, take the mark of the beast and go to the lake of fire for eternity, and the church is going to go up to heaven and stay there while you get your head cut off, Yeah, if you want that gospel, you're in the wrong place, Do you understand the true interpretation is seen, not the word? Oh, this guy's out there. These people know so much, why aren't they teaching? He'd been back twice. I don't know who you mean. No idea who you're talking about. You can tell me, but I have no idea right now. So when we're in Malachi 3 and we see Elijah training the Levites, it appears to be before he's burned up the enemies surrounding us. And we don't even see him with Apostle John there. When they burn the enemies up, Apostle John is there with Elijah in Zechariah 12:6, burning up the enemies on the right hand and the left round about. Now, the church, of course, doesn't ever teach this. They don't want you to know it. And it talks about a siege against Jerusalem and Judah, which is the surrounding where they're now. So maybe there is a ceasefire. And maybe that's when Elijah emerges and trains the Levites. The ceasefire will be over briefly. It won't last a long time. It never does. With Hamas and possibly Hezbollah and the Houthis and the militias in Iraq and Syria will calm down while this goes on, while the ceasefire is on. And that might be when Elijah starts working openly. And it could even be the temple comes down. And then when they see Elijah trains the Levites to make the offerings and the Kohanim acceptable unto the Lord because of their righteousness, then the blessings of the Lord come on Israel, and the miracles, signs, and wonders, etc., will be abounding, and then the nations gang up and come to wipe us out. It's very immature Bible theology to just go around and say, oh, he's Elijah, when there's scriptural evidence that says otherwise. And then you get this guy coming in there saying, oh, there's no interpretation, it's just the written word. Was Yeshua teaching interpretation of the word? Of course he was. Were the apostles teaching it? Of course they were. Does God have a covenant with the church that the people should find knowledge at the mouths of the church pastors? Heck no. Does he have it with the Kohanim? He does. Does the church believe he has it with the Kohanim? No. Will they? Very few. Says it in the written word. Would that character believe it because it's written? Of course not. Hang on a second. I think I forgot something here. Okay, a couple of prayer requests. There's a prayer request for a dog named Trigger for healing. A dog named Trigger, prayer request for healing. Healing for the dog Trigger. Okay? We do pretty good with that. For JG, Jack Golf. JG, Jack Golf. JG, pray finds the right job. For JG, finds the right job. Has multiple options apparently. Toss request, tossed salad for BL. Bravo Lima. Tossed salad for Bravo Lima. BL. This is the first time we had a prayer request for this. There's a baby still in the womb with a name. And the name appears to be Elias. Eliaas. So we're praying for a baby still in the womb named Elias for healing and for the mother also. So for a baby still in the womb named Elias, we want to pray for healing for the baby and for the mother. So when when Elijah is training the Levites, we don't see the effects of the war there. Like, we're not seeing missiles, rockets, terrorists, air raids, go to the shelter, sirens. It doesn't lend itself to that context with him training the Levites, does it? It doesn't seem to ring in like that would be the case. And it would seem that when Elijah trained them and the blessings of the Lord are coming on them, that Satan and the nations bust a gut. And the siege resumes. The people doing the siege are still there. Hezbollah is still in Lebanon. Hamas will still be in Gaza. Houthis in Yemen. Jordan and all them will be there. And, some of them are not so quick to come attack us right now. They probably are not that interested in doing so right now. They don't see a threat. But when Elijah is there and there's signs and wonders and miracles and the people are doing the offerings unto the Lord, and there could be a temple there, or at least a tabernacle. It says we'll have both in Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses. So one of them is there, probably the temple, and they're doing the offerings. And when we see the Lord going into the temple in Ezekiel 43, it appears that the war's over. Elijah already, took care of them with Apostle John. They wiped them out, they burned them up, and the bad ones are gone. So this could be the case. It doesn't have to be the case, but it tends to fit that there could be a ceasefire. I'm not guaranteeing this is the way it'll play out, but it looks like it could be a fit. Doesn't have to be this way, but it looks like it. Could be. I give it a could be, but it's impossible. We gotta wait and watch. It's not gonna change many things significantly, but it's worth waiting and watching and expecting something like this, because it's looking more and more like they are gonna smack together a ceasefire. Hamas is getting more and more desperate, and Netanyahu is getting more and more political pressure to have some sort of a ceasefire. I think that you'll see it. So please pray for me. And like I asked you before, pray I can get through this, getting my packages into the country and getting them to clear customs easily and quickly without any hindrance and problems and delays. My packages get here and get through customs without any problems, okay? Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better videos. Pray for me to be able to, tolerate all these injustices and evil in Israel and as long as I have to. And it's becoming harder and harder. I see what they're doing. I don't tell you everything. I see what they're doing and how wicked it is. I tell you most, but I don't show you. I don't tell you. Well, I'm close to it. And pray. I probably do, but I don't know if you could see it and experience it the way I have, because you're not living here. It's just all the time getting to you. It's just always something they do to you. Having to pay for the kosher food when nothing like this exists in the Lord, and having to observe all their holidays that are not holidays in the Bible, and having to put up with the lies of the government and the rabbis and the horrible lies all the time, and watch the people destroy each other all the time, and it's so nasty to me, because they pin me as not being a native-born Israelite. They hear the way I talk and they know I'm not, and they take such advantage of you. It's horrible. all the time. It's just horrible. You know? It's never ending. It's disgusting. And it's constant. I hate it. It shouldn't be. But I think that it's time that we all pray hard and avidly to the Lord to bring about Elijah working openly, to bring about the end of the bad shepherds and the rich fat cattle. I'll keep it simple just at that. I think we need to pray that avidly day in and day out. Okay. So pray for me and my wife for peace, safety, protection, calm, joy, healing. Pray for our finances. I've got ideas with finances that I don't know if the Lord wants me to go with, but I could hire people to translate these works into Russian, Spanish, Arabic, other languages, like the church witches do. I just need the people to do it. You've got to pay them, and they do it. You've got to trust them, and they do it. And then if I had funds, I could create a better environment to make the videos, get better equipment, and so forth, which is nothing wrong with that. See, we're not going to be poor much longer. God doesn't, when He blesses us, we're not poor, okay? It's not that He resents us being poor, because after we see the sign of the Son of Man and have everlasting life, we're going to be rich. We'll probably know how to deal with it better than we do now, but we'll be rich. All of us that are in Israel will be very wealthy. So, you know, I mean, it's, what are you going around chasing and taking glory and being poor? Well, what's the point of this? Where are you, you know, if that was the case, why would He set us up wealthy? Why would New Jerusalem have streets of gold instead of streets of gravel? You know. So pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. And I hope you got something out of this, and I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And pushing 3 hours, I guess. Well, not quite, but on its way. So if it does any good, hit the like button, subscribe, whatever. And thank you for those that give offerings. And keep my prayers coming. It's a hard time for me. And it just reached a culmination. I know what they're doing with the wars. I know, I see everything, and it's just horrible. It's just terrible. I don't see everything. I see much. It's getting very, very hard to tolerate. And so I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, my Shabbat Shalom. I'm out. Thank you.